For most of my life, I felt broken. It showed up in my relationships, my work, and the way I spoke to myself. No matter how much I achieved, I still felt unworthy, unseen, and alone. But everything changed when I started healing my inner child. I found peace where there used to be chaos, built friendships that actually felt safe, and created a life that feels like me again. I'm Nicole a foster mom and inner child healing coach, and this is Heal Out Loud. Each week, we'll blend science, soul, and real talk to help you stop feeling broken and start becoming the person you've always needed. Because healing isn't quiet. It's time to heal out loud. Hello, and welcome back. This is episode 9 on Heal Out Loud. And today we have a special guest with us. We have Kristen Wyatt, who's a nutrition coach, and she's helped women who've struggled with weight loss for all their lives. Hello, Kristen.
Hello, Nicole. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be chatting with you today.
I'm so happy to have you here. So, Kristen, do you want to tell us a bit about what you do right now with your coaching?
I would love to. I am currently a 42-year-old mom of 2 young kids. Their ages 2 and 5. So I had my kids a little bit later in life. And I help women who have struggled with weight their whole lives. And I do that because that's what happened to me. I feel like I have yo-yo dieted for I'm 42, so probably more than 30 years. And it's a terrible place to be, and it's a terrible struggle to have. So that's why my main goal is to help other women who have struggled with their weight their whole lives to finally lose the weight, finally change their mindset, and then keep the weight off for good.
I'm so excited to have you here. So, Kristen, as a bit of an introduction, we're going to talk about here today is how healing the inner child that hated your body has helped you keep off the weight. And so sometimes we think that the problem is in the diet, and we try all diets under the sun. But we're going to talk about today how it wasn't just the diet that was the problem, but it was more your beliefs and what you've learned from your childhood. So I'd like you to talk to us a bit about how the connection between your childhood experiences growing up and society to your adult body image.
Absolutely. So just as a little backstory, I was always a fat kid, to be blatantly honest. I was probably pushing 100 pounds in kindergarten, and I grew up in the 80s. So it was, typical diet culture, and your worth was connected to your weight. And it wasn't like it was coming from my family. They did nothing wrong, but it was coming from society. So I was always the pretty face, that whole quote, you have such a pretty face. And it's like this backhanded compliment, like your face is pretty, but what's wrong with the rest of you? And I started in Weight Watchers at the age of 10. And at that time you needed I'm sure to this day, you need a doctor's appointment or doctor's note to go to Weight Watchers. So I was a 10-year-old standing in line with middle-aged women getting on a scale, and then that woman behind the scale would be like, oh, you lost weight this week. That's great. And you get a little gold star, or you'd kind of get the side eye if you gained or remained the same. And it really just completely tied your weight to your worth, because you were either cheered on when you were losing weight to get smaller, or you were given the side eye and, just disappointment in you if you didn't lose weight that week.
Yes. Wow. And you were still a kid, 10 years old. Your brain is still developing. And I feel that sometimes, if they told you that you're doing this for your health, because it's for health purposes, it's one thing. But if the driving force behind it was because it's about how you look, then the messages you're getting, they're two different messages.
Absolutely. And I think now, in this day and age, I feel like it is geared more towards health, or at least maybe that's my age saying that. But back then it definitely was. You were looking for the number on the scale. It wasn't to try to get healthier or heart healthy. That's not something you think about when you're 10 years old or even 18 years old or in your 20s. It's not something you don't think about, that mortality thought. You're more thinking vanity reasons. I want to be smaller so I can look like my friends, because I was always the fat friend, not the girlfriend.
Okay. Yeah, this must have been hard growing up as well, constantly having to live up to certain expectations. Was there a moment where you realized my struggles with weight and self-worth all started in my childhood? Was there a specific moment when you were an adult?
This is actually a funny question that you're asking me, because as I was trying to go through who I want to be as a nutrition coach, I was talking to, we're going to name drop here, Meg Ulaney, and we were chatting about how I was trying to tell my origin story. I'm trying to get back to basics so that I can make sure that I'm giving my followers and the people that I want to help the most genuine version of me. And we're going back and forth, and she's like, when do you think this started? And all of a sudden it was we were talking about going to Weight Watchers, and we were talking about just being the kid at Weight Watchers. And she's like, do you think that was it? Do you think that was the defining point where you thought like that changed everything? And I was like, I never really thought about it like that, because I always think of like trauma to me is, it wasn't like standing in line in the Weight Watchers line, but it was being made fun of by friends, being made fun of by boys who, you know, I had crushes on. And it was, I feel like a lot of it was tied to like my teens and my 20s, but like going back to it, it was definitely the fact that I was a 10-year-old standing in line with middle-aged women, and my weight was literally being measured every week. And there was so much pressure put on me by myself, probably, and society, that I would like starve myself all week. And then Saturday would come along, we would hop on the scale, like my mom, my aunt, everyone went. They were lifetime members, so they were like, you know, the cool club. And then we would go for breakfast and eat whatever we wanted on Saturday. So not only did it like tie to my worth and how my worth was tied to my weight, but then it also started the whole like binge and restrict cycle too, because I wanted to, I was trying to live up to someone else's expectations for Saturday morning. And then after Saturday morning, I was like, okay, I could eat whatever I want now.
Yeah. Definitely. And also, going back to when you mentioned the Weight Watchers thing, that you were 10 years old, you were receiving, like, without you knowing, of course, because sometimes you don't even realize that this is happening, but it's like, you are worthy if that number on the scale is going down. That's your worth, basically. And if you're not going to see progress, the message that you were receiving was, I am not worthy yet. I am not enough yet. So it makes sense for the restrict and binge cycle as well. Like in my work, what I do in the inner child healing, I see a lot of my clients, they have this all or nothing approach in everything, with food, with training, work, everything. And it's when, like, what we're doing it for someone else. When we're doing stuff for other people, there's always this all or nothing approach. And when it's coming from a wound, especially, it's definitely, because sometimes you want to be this perfect kid so people love you. And then all of a sudden you're like, if that, I can't do it anymore. I want to binge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Kristen, how did being the funny one instead of the attractive one shape your early sense of self?
I was definitely the kid who was made fun of, but I love my personality now. I'm like one of those people that no one's ever like,
I love it too.
Well, I feel like no one's ever like, oh, I could take or leave Kristen. Like, you love me or you hate me. Like, those are your only two options, because I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and that's fine. But I think that my sarcasm and my humor was built in, I know it was built in a coping mechanism, because I was going to make fun of myself before anyone else had the opportunity to do it. I was going to cut myself down before you thought you were funny and you could do it yourself. So I think it was really hard for me to really break down my walls and let anyone in and see that side of me that was vulnerable, because I had to be like hurt. I had to be like the, I don't want to say like harsh and abrasive person, so that you couldn't hurt me. Like that was my personality.
Yeah, there was always this wall, so you couldn't show moments of sadness. You couldn't be honest with your feelings, because you always had this wall. And when we have a wall, love can't come in and love can't go out. So then you're even more lost, and you cope with binging even more, because no one can see the real you, because you always had to be the tough kid, the funny kid. So Kristen, I'm gonna ask you next this question, and we're gonna open more about it later on as well. Mm-hmm. But can you share with us the story of your heartbreak with your fiance and how it tied into how you felt about your body and your self-worth?
Yeah. In my early 20s, I was engaged, and I almost want to say it was like my first official actual boyfriend that I got engaged to, because I didn't do a lot of dating, because when you are 200 plus pounds in your teens and you shut down and you don't let a lot of people in, you don't do a whole lot of dating. So this was actually like my first boyfriend, and we got engaged after, I want to say, a year of dating. And I was losing weight at the time, so I was feeling good about myself. And then I found out that he had been texting someone else, texting another woman. And I don't know that it went to the physical side. I'm not really sure, but it was one day we were sitting, and he had a son from a previous relationship, and we were sitting at his parents' house, and his phone went off, and it was like a text message. I just happened to be calling my mom on his phone, like never had any speculation at all. And a text came in, and it was almost like a part of a conversation that there was something before it. So clearly there had been texts that were deleted, and I didn't say anything. And then we ended up leaving his house to go somewhere without his child with us. And I mentioned it, and he kind of like gaslit me. And then eventually, you know, he admitted that he's been talking to someone else and it's just a friendship. And we happened to have a joint phone account. So then I became a little psycho, and I was checking like how many text messages were coming in and who he was talking to. And he was talking to this woman like late into the night for hours. So, I talked to him about it, and he was like, I'm sorry, I'll stop. And, you know, I don't know what happened or what transpired. I don't feel like you just talked to somebody like that. There was some physical things that I found out about, but it was like, I was begging him to stay with me. And, you know, I feel like
Wow.
me at 42, if I found out someone was cheating on me, like, see ya, that's it. Like, you don't deserve me anymore. But me at 23, I was like, we can work through this. Please don't leave me. Like, what can I do to make this better? And looking back, like, I'm begging someone who wasn't choosing me 100% to stay with me. And it was all tied to, I'm over 200 pounds. Like, who else am I going to find? So was it really like my connection to him, or was it my connection to the fact that I was like, okay, I'm getting married. You know, this is good.
Yeah.
After not dating anyone, after being the fat one my whole life, like, okay, I'm getting married. This is good. And now I'm starting to realize, even in this conversation, like, was it actually the connection to him, or was it the connection to like my happiness that I finally made it?
Yeah. And definitely, as we said earlier, when you're growing up, when you're a 10-year-old at Weight Watchers and people are tying your worth to how much weight you lose, you're receiving the messages that I am not enough, I am not worthy enough, I am not good enough. So most probably also when you were 23, you made that cheating experience mean something, that you're not good enough, that you're not worthy enough, there's something wrong with you, especially then when you were connecting it to your weight. So this is when we lose our self-worth. This is when we beg, and Kristen, you're not the only one who's done this. There's so many of us in a different way, maybe in similar ways. When we have these beliefs about ourselves that we're not good enough, there's something wrong with us, we beg the wrong people to stay. And it's not, as you're saying, it's not from a connection standpoint. It's more because, oh my God, if this person leaves, he's going to reaffirm the limiting beliefs that I carried since I was a kid, that I'm not good enough, there's something wrong with me. So yes, forgive yourself for begging someone who's done this to stay. We've all begged people who done us wrong to stay at one point or another. And I'm so glad that Kristen at 42 would definitely say, hey, arrivederci, au revoir. There's that song, forget my friend. Yeah. Anyways, I'm not a good singer. I will not sing because people will stop listening to. So Kristen, why do you think so many women struggle with self-love and body image in adulthood? Like, from your experience with your clients especially.
I think that we as women, like, it's still society. Like, there's still some part of society that you see these women out there, especially on Instagram. Instagram is such that's where I get my clients from. That's where I connect with people. But you see all these like beautifully curated reels, and there are beautiful kitchens, and they're, you know, perfect husbands, and their kids are amazing, and they have their Christmas trees up, which I have my Christmas tree up. So there we go. You see these lives, and they look perfect, and you're looking at that person like, okay, that's the body that I should have. Or you see these people that have children, and then they like bounce back immediately, and you think that's expected. And I really do think it's like society and comparing ourselves to others. But I think the one thing that most of my clients who I work with, their mindset really changes when we get to, you know, I'm in my 40s. So when we get to this age, I feel like the mindset changes a little bit. You're always going to have that vanity part of it. You know, a lot of my clients will say that like they hide behind their kids in pictures, which I absolutely did, or they just avoid pictures altogether. But I think, especially me, and I think this is where like the connection really switched for, I guess the momentum really switched for me in my own weight loss, is that you do start to see that mortality side. Like it's a morbid thought, but if we don't take care of ourselves, we get one shot at this. You get one body, you get one life, and you have to take care of yourself. So I think that like when you do start to switch it to exercise and dieting for punishment, as opposed to doing it to benefit yourself, to live longer, I think that's like one of the switches that most women make who work with me. But I do think, like, tying it back to the body image thing, it's what you're seeing out there. The women in magazines that you're seeing, it's the women online that you're seeing. I mean, it's 2025. Do people actually buy magazines anymore? I'm not sure. Social media, you're connecting yourself and you're comparing yourself to someone else's life. And we forget that social media is a highlight reel, and that perfectly curated person could have just had a major fight with her husband and her kids were pissing her off, but yet online she has to show up like everything's perfect.
Definitely.
So I think it's just that comparison. And I always tell my clients, like, it's not my quote, but comparison is the thief of joy. So if you're going to continue to compare yourself to somebody else who, especially a nutrition coach, I think that I show up and it's like, I showered for you today. Like, this is good. I'm wearing my funniest Walmart sweatshirt, but I normally show up with my hair up in a messy bun, yesterday's makeup, and I try to be as real as possible because I feel like that's what women need. They need that authenticity that like not everything is perfect. I think we're comparing ourselves to women online whose bodies are perfect, who nutrition coaches, like it's their job to work out, to look good, to eat healthy. It's just, I have one client who was just comparing herself to somebody else. And I was like, that's literally her job. That's what she does all day. She works out, and she's a big account. Someone prepares her meals. We can't compare ourselves to people who don't have the same situations that we have. So I think it all ties back to, it all ties back to, it all ties back to comparison and seeing other bodies that we should look like, but we don't.
Definitely. I agree with you 100% here, because yesterday I had a session with a client, and in the past we used to say you are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with, but nowadays it's no longer that. You are the sum of all the people that you follow online. So one suggestion I always give to all my clients, I'm not a nutrition coach, but still in general about life and everything, to stop following people that it's impossible, like physically impossible for us to be like them. So for example, I am from Malta, I am Mediterranean, I can never look like a Swedish person, right? Mm-hmm. So you need to stop following these people, because at the end of the day, you're always going to want to be like them. And then it's impossible, and you're going to keep on striving for something that is never possible unless I do a million plastic surgeries, dye my hair blonde. And even my aunt is 60 years old, and she was telling me, now she was in Malta recently, and she was telling me, because now I'm old, and she looks really fine actually. And she's like, I'm really old and this. And I was like, can I have a look through your followers? And she was following like 20-year-olds, like influencers, trainers and stuff. And I was like, see, auntie, remove this from your Instagram, because when we're comparing ourselves to others, we're never going to end up in a good place. And we need to compare ourselves, me to me, Kristen of 42-year-old Kristen to 23-year-old Kristen, and 30-year-old Nicole to Nicole of 5 years ago. 2 completely different people. So I agree with you. Definitely. Thank you, Kristen.
That was such a good
introduction.
I love that you said that, though, because I feel like you're right. I feel like in this, and maybe it's me because I do work from home, so I'm not around a ton of people anymore, but it be that you compare, like you are made up of the 5 people you hang out with the most. And really it's you're comparing yourself to others online, and it's, you know, they're
100%.
Yeah, they're showing their perfection side. They're showing like the happy side, and seeing the fight behind the real.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Yes. So, Kristen, what behaviors or thought patterns signaled that you were operating from a place of I'm not enough? Like, I know you've already mentioned some, but maybe go a little bit deeper.
I definitely mentioned the being engaged and then trying to make him choose me, even though I shouldn't have been choosing him anyways. And he did end up breaking up with me. So then it was like this double whammy of I'm not enough. And then I tried to stay, and then he broke up with me anyways. But it was just the rejection from, different relationships where maybe the case wasn't my weight, but because that was something I was always hiding behind, it was always blamed. Or even earlier than that, friends not choosing to hang out with me, or I'm not invited to the sleepover, and they're talking behind my back, things like that.
Wow, you just mentioned a really, really important point that I wish to open up on a little bit more, where you said you always blamed your weight, but it was something that you were hiding behind. And I see this happening with my clients with different things, of course, but sometimes we use something, like for me, for example, it used to be like, they never wanted me anyways, and I could just scrub it off and not do the work and just blame them. But what you just mentioned about the weight and hiding behind, like putting the blame on the weight, is something that most of us, like, we find a flaw in ourselves, and we tend to feel like we're victims, and there's nothing that we can do about it. So this is why it's happening.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times and I think my personality too, like I feel like I'm a lot friendlier now, but I feel like back then, like they could have not chosen me, or not chosen to date me or talk to me or continue or whatever it was, based on the fact that I had no confidence. I remember my ex-fiance at the time, like, telling me, he was just like, I must have like made fun of myself in some way, shape, or form. And he's like, it's really not attractive when you do that. But I couldn't, even though he was choosing me at that time, I couldn't not comment on what I felt like was a flaw, even though he didn't necessarily see it as a flaw, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. He was choosing you, but you were still not choosing yourself. So you still felt like you needed to pause these comments. And yes, and when we're insecure, sometimes our insecurities are covered by also, sometimes we tend to be a little bit arrogant without us knowing. It's because we're insecure, but it comes out as arrogance towards others, towards ourselves. So yeah, interesting. Very interesting. So now that you're mentioning the relationship, I want to ask you, can you maybe describe the link between self-love and attracting the right partner? I know you have a lot to say about this.
Yeah, I think once you do appreciate yourself and you give value to yourself more, you are not willing to put up with the same shit that you were putting up with before. And I think it's all about that self-love and having the respect for yourself. So, I mean, there were definitely, I wouldn't say big relationships, but there were relationships in between myself when I was with my ex-fiance and when I'm with my I don't want to say current husband because he's my only one. We're in a but there were definitely situations where I was like, no, I respect myself too much for this, whether it was, not an official relationship or whatever it was. But I think once I started to value myself more, I knew that I expected more and deserved more than what I was getting in the past.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think that's true in my marriage today. There's always, there's always insecurities. I'm not going to say that I'm perfect, but I think that's true in my marriage today. I know that even if we're having like a little argument, there's stuff that I'm not going to stand for because of confidence that I have in myself.
Makes sense. And of course, to arrive at this place that you're at now, there was a lot. It wasn't just losing the weight that helped you arrive to where you are now. It was letting go of societal expectations, the I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough. And now that we're talking about this, if you had to, like, to whoever is listening to us, what really changed? So you used to try every method, every diet, and you always found yourself back in the restrict binge, and you start again on Monday. Like, I've seen your content and what you share online. So what changed? How did you manage to what's your method now? What's helping you stay? Like, yes, give us your secret.
I feel like there's a couple secrets and I'm always like, this is the thing that did it. But I think it's a combination of, when I first started, so when I had three pregnancies, two babies, and I gained a lot of weight with both of them. And my coaching really shifted after I had Charlotte. She's 2, Jackson is 5. So I had Charlotte in 2023 and I was definitely in the binge restrict cycle, but I think it's like new mom, you're not sleeping, you have 2 kids now. And I was almost eating to, I don't want to say find joy because I had 2 beautiful babies, but overstimulation and trying to I don't know, just trying to feed something. And I think we
fill the void.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's normal to go through this. We all have seasons of life, but I found myself 5 pounds. I didn't enjoy playing with my kids. I mean, Charlotte was an infant, but Jackson wanted to go outside and I'd be like, okay, 1 minute until he forgot about it. I felt like I couldn't get on the floor. I couldn't get off the floor. To play with them. I just didn't have a lot of energy. I just wanted to sit on the couch and hold my baby. Like, that's all I wanted to do. And I realized like, that's not the mom that I want to be. And on July 10th of 2023, I was like, this is it. I've got to do this. I'm a nutrition coach. I'm teaching other people how to do this, but yet I'm not living it myself. And I felt like an imposter. And I think so many women, when they start to lose weight, they have this deadline. Like, I have to lose 20 pounds by Christmas, or I have to lose 50 pounds by March, or whatever this event is coming up. And I literally said to myself that day, I'm like, I'm giving myself a year, because I've never done Ozempic or Mounjaro or any of the GLP-1s. But when you're so desperate and hopeless, I'm not going to tell you that it didn't cross my mind. I've never done it, but I was just like, all right, I'm going to give myself a year. And it wasn't if I didn't get to this particular weight by July 10th of 2024 that anything big was going to happen. But I think we just quit very quickly. We've gained weight over time, and yet we expect these results to show up like Amazon Prime. And that doesn't happen. So I was like, I'm going to give myself a year, no quitting. If I screw up, I'm just going to continue, because really the only way you fail is if you quit. And I think that really switched my mindset. So it was a combination of like why I was doing it, giving myself kind of like the permission to not have a timeline on it. And then really trying to lose weight in the season that I was in. Because prior to this, I don't know what you know about nutrition coaches or macros. I and my clients had this like a calorie goal, and you had protein, fats, and carbs, and you had to play Tetris in order to hit those goals. And I was like, I'm 40 years old. I have 2 young kids. Like, I don't have time to stand in the refrigerator and play Tetris. So I kind of switched my model of coaching, and now we focus on calories, and then we work on protein. So it was like gradual, kind of like pulling back the restriction, thinking about the types of food I was eating, just going out for a walk, and really trying to switch that all or nothing mindset to all or something. And that's really what I focus on with my clients, right?
I love this. All or something. Wow. Nice.
Yeah,
and
because
also I think, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, I think every season of life is hard, but I think in the season of life that, you're in, especially like I'm somebody who had kids later in life, but I don't have time to do all these different things. So you see these 20-year-old nutrition coaches saying like, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. No, we don't. No, we absolutely do not. I don't believe that. But I think that we come from a point of a scarcity mindset and instead of a place of an abundance mindset. So some people are like, oh, I only have 10 minutes, so I'm just going to sit here. And now I come from the point is like, I have 10 minutes. What can I get done? So maybe it's like folding a load of laundry. Maybe it's cooking ground beef for dinner tonight. Maybe it's hopping on the treadmill for 10 minutes. And a lot of my clients have heard me say that. And they're like, oh, you only had 10 minutes. You hopped on the treadmill. And I was like, yeah. Like, even if you're going to sit there and scroll on your phone, like you could scroll and stroll. Like, how about if we do something else instead of just sit there and I only have 10 minutes or whatever it might be, instead of saying I only have this, how about, okay, I have this, what can I do? So just trying to switch that to all or something instead of all or nothing. Or if you only have 30 minutes for a workout, 30 minutes is better than 0 minutes. So just trying to really switch back from all or nothing to all or something.
This is amazing. And it's so true what you're saying about abundance and lack. We focus so much on lack that the more we focus on lack, the more we create of it. And then you feel even worse after because you're doom scrolling. And if you just get up and go out for 15 minutes for a quick walk in the sun, you're getting sunlight. It's helping your nervous system to regulate and it's helping you hit your step goals. So yes. And also, what I feel, Kristen, when I hear you speaking is the reason behind your why was a different reason than when you were in your 20s. In your 20s, it was because you wanted to be chosen, because you wanted to feel worthy, because you wanted to feel like you were enough. And now all of a sudden, the reason why was, I want to be a better mom. I want to feel like I am a better mom. And of course, like your kids here were the driving force, but if we go back to my story with my mom, of course, my mom it wasn't about nutrition. She was a drug dependent person. She tried to change for her kids, but she still couldn't. Although your kids were the driving force, I truly believe that it's because you wanted to feel like a better mom. Of course, you wanted to be there for your kids. So thank God you had your kids, which helped you. But all of a sudden, the reason behind your why changed to you wanted to feel like you're a good mom, to enjoy time with your kids. So this is a very important point, that the reason behind our why is when it's a reason coming from self-love, from self-worth, from wanting to live a better life, basically, is going to help us. But if the reason behind your why is because I want to look good in this dress for this wedding and because I want this guy or because I want this, it's never going to work. Actually, you're going to feel even angrier at yourself afterwards, and then you will binge even more. And that's when the all or nothing approach kicks into play.
Yeah. Yes. And as you were talking too, it's like those reasons are all due to a deadline for a guy. So you get the guy and then what happens? For a dress. So you get you fit in the dress, then what happens? But I think mine right now with my kids is to extend the deadline because, having, you see all these reels and maybe they're not in your, Explorer page, but like you have like the old mom walking into kindergarten. That's me. My son is in kindergarten. I'm 42 years old and, the other parents are in their 20s. And so I know that like, I want to make sure that I'm here as long as possible. Like I want to make sure that I have as many years with them as these other 20-year-old parents. So that's on me. So I need to get healthy. I need to, and it's not like, we don't walk around with a number of our weight or the scale tattooed to our foreheads. We walk around with our health, our confidence, our personalities, our joy. And I need to make sure that I'm here as long as possible for them because I want to be there for them. And I think that once you change your why to, like you said, for self-love, self-worth, and you, as opposed to an outside source, I think that makes all the difference for your journey.
Yeah,
There is no deadline. I want to push
definitely.
back the
Yeah, wow, this is so beautiful. I think we can both agree that when you're doing this from a place of self-love, it's actually going to give you more benefits, because even when you make a mistake or when you fall back into old habits, you just accept it, you brush it off, no shaming and blaming, and you start again, because now you're focusing on all or something, not all or nothing. Whereas when it used to come from self-hatred, because of the I'm not good enough beliefs, there's something wrong with me belief, as soon as you make a mistake, you shame yourself even more, and then you spiral even more. So what steps did you take to nurture your inner child and also reclaim your sense of self-worth?
I think even just going back to my childhood and thinking about different situations, because you have those different situations that are like in your mind forever, and just almost forgiving yourself for how you acted, that harsh abrasive side that I had, or the I could still, like, I could picture being in like my grandparents' yard, and I was like the only girl in the neighborhood. So it was like me and a bunch of boys. And of course, at some point you're gonna have a crush on somebody. And I just remember like they could never like me, or I would be mean to myself, or I would pretend I didn't like them. And I just think going back to myself and forgiving that 10-year-old who, now that I'm 42
Yeah.
and I have kids and I was a teacher, and I see like, you put yourself in those shoes and you're like, wow, like I can't believe that me as a 10-year-old, I was dealing with that. So it's like forgiving yourself for something that you really didn't have a ton of control over when it comes to like societal norms and things like that. And kind of just being like, you were worth it, even though at the time you didn't feel like you were. And just, continuing to be kind to myself when I think back to that, and continuing to be kind to myself now, knowing that I'm not perfect, but I'm me, and that all of these things make up me. And I want to almost say, like, if I didn't go through all of that, I wouldn't be the person that I am today.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so glad I asked you this question. It's beautiful what you said about forgiving yourself. That's so, so beautiful. And forgiving that 10-year-old, and wow, thank you, Kristen. Beautiful. And how did this emotional healing affect every area in your life, like your business, your relationships, your career, confidence?
I think that I've just become a more confident person. Earlier we were talking about comparison, and I really struggled with, for a little while, growing up in the nutrition world as someone who didn't have a perfect body. And I'm 170-ish, 75 pounds. And there's, part of me is like, who am I to give nutrition advice when people want to lose weight more? I'm comparing myself to these 130, 140, 120 pound nutrition coaches. And I think that when I took a step back and I was like trying to realize that I'm not the coach for everyone, but I'm the coach for people who have struggled with their weight their whole life. And maybe I am, their body goals at this point. And I don't need to be ashamed of how I look right now to step out into the nutrition world. And for a while I struggled with that. So I feel like right now I don't compare myself as much. Like, I just have no fucks to give at this point. I'm not going to apologize for who I am anymore. And I think that right there has given me confidence in my business, in my marriage, just with my friends. And a lot of people will be like, oh, I can't believe you said that on the internet. I'm like, I don't care. I'm trying to be transparent and authentic. And I made a reel a while back, and it was about being body goals. And I, at 175 pounds, am body goals for someone. Myself at 283 pounds, which was my highest known weight, which who knows what, it could have been higher. But at that point, I was even body goals for someone who was in the 300s, 400s pounds. Like, I was not their ultimate body goal, but they would have killed to be where I was at that point. And then it's just one of those, like, it's like the downward spiral. It's like the downward effect of like, you are body goals. So let's not talk shit on our bodies, because somebody out there is thinking, wow, she's talking shit about herself. She weighs less than I do. She looks better than I do. What does she think of me? So it's really just has built confidence in all areas of my life once I actually healed and had more self-love and gave myself more grace for everything that I've been through.
Wow, Kristen, I'm amazed at your journey and also at your transformation. Like, I see your reels, they come up for me all the time, and Lately, I saw one of your reels, like, my mom would not be proud of me, and you listed certain things, and it's true. Like, if this was Kristen of the past, the one you're mentioning, where you had these walls and where you maybe had these thoughts of you're not good enough and stuff, you wouldn't be so confident to share certain things. And it's true. Something I love about all that you share is your authenticity, and I can see it, I can feel it. So I'm pretty sure that is what will continue attracting to you the ideal clients. And as you're saying, for some people, you are body goals right now, and your transformation in itself is an amazing journey. So I'm so happy to hear you speaking like this. It's amazing the type of healing that you've done to arrive where you're at today. So
Thank you so
really,
much.
really.
Thank you.
Real quick, before we dive back in, if you have no idea where to start on your inner child healing journey, take my free quiz. What is your inner child archetype? You'll discover which version of your inner child is running the show for you, and you'll get personalized tips and suggestions so you can start applying right away. Just head over to my Instagram or TikTok, Evolving with Nicole, and you'll find the link to the quiz right in my bio. What are the first steps that someone can take to start loving themselves and transforming their body mindset?
I think one of the first steps that anyone can take is just being aware of what they're doing. When I start working with anyone, we start talking about their why. We talk about, like, why do you want to do this? And we've already talked about that. But I think so many of us are just not aware of what we're actually eating. And I don't think that the weight loss anymore is tied to our worth, like that number. But I think once you start to eat better, to lose weight, you start to feel better. You start to have more confidence. And it's not necessarily like, oh, the number's lower, but I just have more control in my life. So the first steps when I work with clients is just being aware. And I always say, like, I live in America, the land of the fat and the free. We can get anything we want, anytime we want. So just being more aware of, do I actually want that? How many calories is actually in that? How does that actually make me feel when I eat it? So it's just all about awareness and just observing how certain foods make us feel. And how we kind of had our head in the sand before when we were just eating whatever we wanted to eat, and just how by taking care of yourself, that is a practice of self-love, and to just to feel better and to know that you're doing something for you, as opposed to, especially as a mom, we pour into everyone else. Like, I'm constantly worried about what my kids are eating and who has a doctor's appointment and do I need diapers, and like, Jackson has homework done. Oh my gosh, I didn't read his book with him this morning. We pour into
Woman.
Exactly. We pour into everyone else. And I'm by no means the best mom in the world, but you're constantly, even you, like you're pouring into everyone else, your clients, your grandma, you're pouring into your friends, you're pouring to everyone. And it's just like, okay, now I'm doing this for me. So it just changes your perspective on things. So it gives you a little bit more control and more confidence.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And when you mentioned that, like, you tell your clients to ask themselves, how is this going to make me feel after I eat it or after I drink it? And that's so true. Of course, like, coming from my industry in the inner child healing sector, I have a lot of clients that come to me with binging problems. They don't come to me because of their binging problem, but as we're doing the healing, they mention that they have a binging problem. And most oftentimes what I tell my clients to ask themselves is, what am I really hungry for in this moment? Because sometimes hunger is not for the food. It's not for that iced coffee or that frappe. It's more because we want to fill a void. So what you just said about ask yourself, how am I going to feel after I take it? That's so, so good. And it's true. I've also had a binging problem, and I've spoken about it online. When I hadn't healed my inner child yet, I had this really bad binging problem where I used to not eat for a whole 3 days and just go on coffee. And then on the fourth day, I'd binge on sugary stuff, just sugary stuff. The problem was it wasn't the food, it wasn't the sugar, it was like how I was feeling. And if I had this tool, like if I had this tool that you just mentioned to ask myself, how would I actually feel after eating this? I think it would have helped me a lot back then. So that's amazing. Yes, that's a really, really valid point. I love it.
I always say, like, I've definitely it was never a diagnosed binge eating, but I definitely have binge, like, that you're binge eating when you're literally tearing through food. Like, it doesn't actually matter what it tastes like. It doesn't matter what's next. It's stuff that you don't normally even want. You're just tearing through your pantry. And I always say, like, I wish I could just bottle that feeling the day after and just take a little sip of it the next time I feel that urge coming on. You're like, oh, no, I don't want this. Like, it's actually something else that I'm looking for. And like you said, like, it's filling the void. And a lot of times with the moms I coach, it's after the kids go to bed, you're so overstimulated. And I actually didn't know what overstimulated mean until I had kids, and like that microwave beeper is going off and you're like, holy shit, like my whole world just blew up. And it had nothing to do with the microwave, but it's just like the dryer is singing that annoying sound, the microwave's beeping and it's going off, and you're like, your head just wants to explode. And once the kids go to bed and it's quiet, you're like, okay, this is me time. And you find yourself like snacking or in the pantry or whatever it is. But it's not that you're not trying to fill a void. You're not trying to fill the food void. You're trying to fill the feeling that whatever it is, you know, whether you're overstimulated or lonely or upset or just thinking like, what am I even doing? That's exactly what it is. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, it's true. And especially like, you know, you have a binging problem when you're hiding your food from people. All my family knew I had problems with sugar, so I used to hide it. And so when you're hiding, and I think like now that we're talking about this, I want to take a minute for anyone who's hearing us, that when there's a binging problem, or not just binging, but this problem around food, most oftentimes than not, it's coming from a bigger limiting belief. It's not the food. It's not the diet. It's coming from some limiting belief you have about yourself that you carried from your childhood, from society, from maybe your parents, maybe your siblings, maybe your friends. But to stop focusing so much on, okay, maybe I need to go on keto now. Maybe I need to go on this diet now. And there's a new diet, and paying for all these programs, and nothing's going to work until you sit down with yourself and you're like, listen, I need to come from a place of self-love. I can't keep on hating my body and expecting it to change, because you're just going to feel worse.
Exactly. You can still love your body and want to change it. That's okay. But when it comes from a place of hate, like you said, it's not going to do any good. I actually laughed when you're like hiding, because I feel like I forgot about the hiding part of the binge eating. Like I have like a PhD in how to hide that.
I remember it so clearly. Yes, it's insane. And you made me laugh so much when you mentioned the overstimulation part, the beeping of the microwave, the beeping of the washing machine.
I don't understand. Like the microwave beeping just like drives me bonkers. Like I'm never going to forget about food. I wish the dryer would go off every now and then, because I'm going to forget about like switching laundry way more often than I'm never going to forget about that food in the microwave. That's never happened. Maybe coffee, but never food. Like it's not. How about if we talk to GE or Samsung and we'll talk to them about like, how about if we like have that dryer option go off more often, like and knock your shit off with the microwave. Like I'm not forgetting about food.
So true. So Kristen, if someone is listening to us right now and they're feeling hopeless about their body or their self-worth, what would you say to them?
I think I would say that, you know, your feelings might be valid, but there's nothing that you can do to go back and change anything. You can only change something going forward. So if you are feeling hopeless, like there's nothing that you can do. You can't go back in time. There's no portal that you can go back and change anything. So it's like, okay, let me take this feeling, take the decisions that I made in the past, and let me change that going forward. Let me try to, and we can't overhaul anything because that just makes us feel failure. So what is something that I can do today to change the feelings that I had or the feelings that I currently have? And the other thing that I feel like that hopelessness, that feeling of desperation, and I could speak to this because I felt that at 255 pounds. I'm like, what am I going to do? As a nutrition coach, do I need, a weight loss drug? And it's just kind of like breaking it down. What can I do today to be 1% better than yesterday? Because as women, we take everything on. But at the same time, we feel like, oh, I can't do this. I don't know what to do. I can't do this. I'm too far gone. And sometimes when I work with women, I flip the script to, what would you tell your child if they felt like I couldn't do this? And with Jackson, and when he's getting frustrated and he's feeling hopeless with something, I'm not going to be like, you're right. You can't do that. You can't do that. Just give up. No, you're not going to do that. Let's talk to ourselves with the same grace and the same encouragement that we would talk to our children with. And I know that might be hard to imagine for someone who doesn't have kids or chooses not to have kids or whatever that may be. But let's talk to ourselves with the same encouragement that we would talk to our friends with. You would never you would never be like, oh, Nicole, you can't do it. You're right. Just give up. So it's like, what can you do in order to take yourself 1% better or make a decision that will move you in the right direction, that 1%?
Amazing. Thank you for mentioning this, because this is exactly what I say to my clients. Like, imagine you just adopted, because with the inner child healing, what we're doing is we're meeting our younger selves. And I let them know, like, imagine you just adopted a girl or a boy from, I don't know, a very tough childhood, tough upbringing, maybe in the house, maybe in school. And this kid is going to react some days. They're going to throw tantrums, right? Because they don't trust you still. Like, your brain is trying new things. So your brain is like, what the hell is happening here? Someone hijacked our brain. So what do? We sit with these kids, we give them the love, we give them comfort. And yes, of course, sometimes we're not always showing up 100% perfectly, but we would never tell our kids, you're bad, you're not good at this, you're not, exactly as you mentioned. So this is something really important for anyone who's listening, as Kristen said, and shaming and blaming yourself. The more you're going to shame and blame yourself, the worse you're going to feel. Be kind and compassionate. Be aware, I'm not talking about toxic positivity, right? So yes, I'm not proud of all the food I've eaten today, but it's in the past. We can't get time back. So forgive yourself, as Kristen was saying as well, and speak to yourself in the same kindness and grace that you would speak to your kids or to your friends. So, wow, Kristen, you're making really, really amazing points. Thank you so much. I'm so happy that you're here with us. Genuinely. This is so important. Yes.
As you were just saying that, I was like, does she have cameras in my house the past couple of days? Because I think I think one of the things that I think about too is I don't want my kids to deal with what I dealt with. And I said in the beginning, this is no shade to my parents. They did the best that they could. But I think just allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. And, 2 nights ago, I yelled at Charlotte, and I was just like, I was overstimulated. She wouldn't go to bed. And I feel like I just scooped her up and I was like, Mama, sorry. I shouldn't have reacted like that. And it's just like being an adult in that moment and just trying to be like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. That was on me. I think about all the thing in this podcast, I'm getting emotional about it's my kids. Even last night, I made a reel after Jackson said this, but
it's okay. Take your time.
He had, this is authenticity. This is literally me.
Yes.
So good at school, but he comes home after being so good at school and he's 5. And he like loses his shit at night. It's like he becomes the Tasmanian devil. And I yelled at him too. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said that. And he was like, it's okay. You're just a 5-year-old parent. And I actually thought he was like insulting me. Like, you're just acting like a 5-year-old. You've only been a mama for 5 years. And I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
That is like helping ourselves to heal our inner child, but also not passing that on to the next generation.
That's amazing, Kristen.
Damn it, Nicole, what did you do to me?
I'm sorry.
You're so good at this.
Thank you. But it's true. What you're saying is when we're healing ourselves, we're healing our next generations too. Like this generational trauma's passed from one generation to another, but there's also generational healing. The more your kids, like, this is amazing that Jackson said this to you. It shows that you're a mom who apologizes. And unfortunately, the generation of our parents, they hardly ever apologized. It's not that we're always going to do the right thing. I make mistakes with my sister too, but at least it's how you show up and you say, sorry, it was my bad. The kids are not taking it on them. They're not making it mean that there's something wrong with them. They know, as your kid said, Mom, you've only been a mom for 5 years. And that's the sweetest thing. That's so cute.
It really is. I was like, wow.
Wow. How sweet. And as you were saying as well, what your kids see you doing, they're going to repeat in their lives. Like, for example, so my grandma, she's 80 years old now and she's beautiful. Not saying this because she's my grandma, but everyone in the nursing home, everyone's like, wow, her face is still like she has no wrinkles anyways. And I never in my life did I watch my grandma go in front of the mirror and say that she's ugly or that there's something wrong with her. But then when it came to my mom, and in my eyes, my mom was really beautiful too. When it came to my mom, I always saw her complaining about how she looks. And genuinely, she didn't need to. And as kids, it's so easy for us to catch on the negatives, because I had my grandma who was she was happy in her body with her face and everything. But then I had my mom who always complained about herself. And funnily enough, when I was growing up, and I still do it sometimes, I just look in the mirror and complain about what I see in the mirror. So what you're saying is, I went on a rant, but it's true. Kids are going to mirror back what we're doing. So thank you for mentioning that.
I think you made a huge point with that, because I think that we I mean, I'm 42 and I saw, my mom, my aunts, and it wasn't anything, there's nothing wrong with them. It's the diet culture. They would pick on themselves and they would think like, look at this, like, these jeans are too tight, or I look like a cow. And it's something that I still think,
Wow.
but I never say that in front of my kids. And I should do this with Jackson more, but with Charlotte, I don't know. It's like that female. From when she was an infant, we would look in the mirror and like, okay, who's beautiful, who's gorgeous, who's strong, who's smart, and who's loved. And now we do it. And she's like me, and we get to the like, who's strong. And she's like me, like, she has this like raspy voice. Like, that's what I want them to see. I want them to see
That's
their beauty
amazing.
and not. They're never going to hear me say like, I feel fat. I may think it, but I'm never going to say it because I don't want them to mirror that. So you nailed it.
Amazing. Yeah. And yes, I agree with doing it more with Jackson too, because his future wife will come and thank you instead of saying, oh, my mother-in-law's the worst.
Yes. Yeah.
So
definitely need to
do it with Jackson too.
Mhm.
Yeah. Amazing. Yes. Okay, Kristen, can you tell us where can people find you online?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at wyatt.wellness. I'm starting to dabble in the TikTok, even though I feel like I'm too much of a boomer for that. But I do share my weight loss and my sarcasm and my clients' journeys at wyatt.wellness on Instagram.
Amazing. And guys, honestly, if you want a dash of fun and sarcasm, follow Kristen. I'm not following any diets or anything, but genuinely, I love your content because it's so raw, so authentic, and you don't just speak about nutrition. You talk about the limiting beliefs and stuff like that. So for me, it's amazing. And your way of how you approach things, and we've spoken in the past, and I just love the way you work. So yeah, people should follow Kristen on IG. Do you have any free resource or gift that can help these listeners for someone who wants to start their weight loss journey, but this time from a place of self-love, not self-hate? Do you have anything you can share with these people?
Absolutely. I have quite a few resources, but one of them is my Ultimate Nutrition Guide. So it's just like, I don't know where to start, or I know where to start. I just need to actually implement these things. But the one that I'm most proud of is how to stop emotional eating to lose weight. Because I think that, like we've talked about in the past, we're eating from an emotional standpoint and not a nutritional standpoint. So what are some things that I can do when I'm about to walk into that pantry? What are some things that I can do in order to eat nutritionally and not emotionally? So do I actually want this? Is this actually going to make me feel good? Am I hungry, or do I need something else? So it's kind of like tips to be like, okay, let's take a 10-minute pause. Let's go for a walk. Let's drink some water. Let's talk to a friend. Let's do something for 10 minutes and then go back and be like, okay, do I actually want this? Okay, maybe I do. Or no, that's exactly what I needed by walking away and just taking a pause. So it's how to stop emotional eating to lose weight.
Amazing. Nice. This is interesting. And yes, it really does help, like how you're explaining it. Amazing. We spoke about it earlier in the podcast as well. Amazing. Nice. And do you have anything exciting coming up? I know that you said you're going to go, even though you're a boomer, you're going to go into TikTok. Even I don't know how to use TikTok as much, genuinely. But anything exciting coming up that your audience should know about? Amazing. I'll follow you on TikTok. I really don't know how to use it much. I just go on there, I post my reel, and then I'm like, how does this work?
I don't, yeah.
I'm more of an IG person. Yeah,
We're just playing around on
catch me
TikTok.
outside. So to conclude, Kristen, what's a mantra that has anchored you through your journey? I know you mentioned the all or something, and I love that, and I'm going to steal it for you, but maybe you have another mantra that has really anchored you in this healing journey. So beautiful. Kristen, this was an amazing podcast. I'm so happy to have had you as a guest. You're my first guest.
I'm
I was
your guest.
I
I'm
was
honored.
so excited. Thank you for all the insights that you've given us, for sharing your personal experience with the fiance thing, with the self-worth, with how it felt for you growing up, with the Weight Watchers. I know that these things, although we've worked through them, they're not always so easy to share and remember. But getting off this podcast, I want to tell you what an amazing job you've been doing. It's amazing how you managed to not let go of the weight, as in the pounds, but to let go of the weight, the societal weight, the weight of the limiting beliefs you had, the weight of the negativity that you've carried on your back for so long that, yes, crushed you further down and down. And it's amazing to where you've arrived today. Really amazing. And thank you for being here with us. This is so exciting. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you so much. If today's episode made you think, laugh, cry, or want to yell at the universe, good. That means something moved. Make sure you hit follow, share this with a friend who's healing too, and remember, you don't have to heal quietly anymore. See you next week for more truth bombs, breakthroughs, and a little bit of magic.